Goyette Show on KFNX News Talk Radio 1100 in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm Scott Horton from antiwar.com, filling in for the great Charles Goyette this morning, and very happy to talk to my friend, also from antiwar.com, nuclear physicist, Dr. Gordon Prather. Are you there, Gordon?
Yes, I am, Scott, and your sound went down a little bit, though, in quality just then.
Yeah, well, we're kind of doing our best. I'm hosting a Phoenix show from Austin this morning. I hope you can still hear me okay.
Oh, yeah, pretty good.
All right, now, you worked at Lawrence Livermore and Sandia National Laboratories, had a career in the United States Navy. You were the chief scientist of the Army, former advisor to Senator Henry Bellman. Is there anything else anybody needs to know particularly about your experience with nuclear weapons and the international non-proliferation regime, sir?
No, except that Lawrence Livermore is one of the nuclear weapons design laboratories, and that Sandia National Laboratory is the weaponization of the designs.
Uh-huh. So the point here is, folks, that Dr. Gordon Prather knows all about nuclear weapons. He writes every weekend at antiwar.com, and often, Gordon, the topic of your article is, well, usually countering the spin by the war party that Iran is on the verge of obtaining nuclear weapons. Is Iran on the verge of obtaining nuclear weapons, Dr. Prather?
Of course not. If any country in the world at the present time is certified to not have a nuclear weapons program, although they don't actually certify it that way, the International Atomic Energy Agency, as best they can determine, there is no evidence whatsoever that any of the activities in Iran have been diverted to a military purpose.
Okay, so
and they make those reports quarterly, every quarter, 4 times a year. They make those reports, and they just made one in June. There'll be another one in September, and it'll just be the same. I know you want to talk mostly about Iran, but I saw this quote by Gordon Brown, the new Prime Minister of United Kingdom. Who's
from his press conference yesterday. He said that attacking Iran is on the table.
The use of force against Iran because of its alleged nuclear weapons programs. Now, there was a perfect opportunity then for the United Kingdom to get off this jihad, I don't know what else you'd call it, about Iraq and Iran and all these other countries that we don't like very much, having secret nuclear weapons programs that the International Atomic Energy Agency can't find, can find no evidence of. But instead of him repudiating essentially, or starting out saying, we, the United Kingdom, are not going to invade or bomb or attack some country that the IAEA certifies is in compliance with its safeguards agreement,
Right.
That's all he would have needed to do. But no, he goes in and says, no, I'm not going to rule out the use of force against these programs.
And now, when you talk about the IAEA statutes and inspections and so forth, this basically the deal is Iran is a member of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And tell me if I basically have this right, Dr. Prather, that the Non-Proliferation Treaty says if you're a member state that already has nuclear weapons, then you promise not to sell them, proliferate them to anybody else. And if you're a country that doesn't have nuclear weapons, you promise not to try to obtain them. But it also says that the nuclear power countries are mandated to help the non-nuclear power countries obtain nuclear power for peaceful purposes. And this is the treaty that America and Iran are both signatories to. Is that right?
That's correct. And the United Kingdom, and France, and Germany.
And so Iran has this nuclear program, but on the ground are International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors enforcing their safeguards agreement and making sure that they're living up to their treaty obligations under the NPT, right?
Well, almost. They don't have any enforcement ability. They're not policemen. They can't do anything other than report what they find.
Right.
And they do that, like I say, like every quarter in the case of Iran. Most safeguards agreements, they only go in once a year or something like that. There are 140 countries that have IAEA safeguards agreements, which is a legal document. It's like a treaty. And and I don't know how much time you got, but basically all of the stuff that you keep hearing on the news, and the news reporters never ever bother to make this distinction. Back after the United States invaded Iraq under false pretenses, claiming that the IAEA inspectors were wrong and that there were nuclear programs somewhere in Iraq, okay? What Iran did, well, first of all, North Korea said, the heck with this, and they withdrew from the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which was their right. All you have to do to withdraw is to say why you're doing it, and if it's a good enough reason, like somebody's threatening to nuke you, which the United States is threatening to do to North Korea at the time, that's sufficient justification to withdraw from the treaty. You've got to protect yourself, and if somebody's going to bomb you because you are some program that they claim you've got, there's no evidence to this day that they had such a program. But at any rate, back to what Iran did. Iran went the other way. They agreed to sign an additional protocol to their safeguards agreement. Now, the safeguards agreement, that additional protocol has never been ratified by the Iranian parliament, and hence it has no legal basis internationally. So as far as we're concerned today, as of right now, all Iran has to do is to satisfy the IAEA that none of its declared materials, nuclear materials, or activities have been diverted to a military purpose. And that's what they've got people crawling all over the place in Iran, special inspections, all kinds of things, and they've been going that way since 2003, and they have yet to find any evidence that Iran is not in compliance with its safeguards agreement. Now, the additional protocol, it goes a little further, and that is not required by the Treaty on Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. It's something that you do it of your own volition. It's something that you add on. And the additional protocol enables the IAEA not only to verify, I'm reading this, enables the IAEA not only to verify the non-diversion of declared nuclear material, but also to provide assurances as to the absence of undeclared nuclear material and activities in the state.
So it goes much further.
Reports by Mohammed al-Barada, each one of them will make two statements. The first one is, there's nothing been diverted. Okay, that's the end of it. Now then when he goes on and talks about these, I'm unable to provide these assurances, he's going beyond the safeguards agreement. He's in the additional protocol waters, or even beyond the additional protocol waters, and Iran is under no obligation whatsoever to provide him those assurances.
I'm Scott Horton. This is the Charles Goyette Show on KFNX News Talk Radio 1100 in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm talking with Dr. Gordon Prather. He's a nuclear scientist, former chief scientist of the Army, writes every weekend for us at antiwar.com. And we're talking about Iran's nuclear program and their state of compliance with the Non-Proliferation Treaty and the International Atomic Energy Agency. So far, we've learned they took the opposite course that North Korea took, which was closing their books and kicking the IAEA out. Iran opened their books wide and signed additional protocols to their safeguards agreement so that the so-called international community could be even more sure that their nuclear program is not related in any way to military purposes. And we'll be right back after this short break to finish up talking with Dr. Gordon Prather on KFNX News Talk Radio 1100 in Phoenix. KFNX News Talk Radio 1100 in Phoenix. The Charles Goyette Show. I'm Scott Horton filling in, and I have my friend Dr. Gordon Prather on the telephone. He's a nuclear physicist. You see, he knows all about how to build nuclear weapons and how to set them off and how to take them back apart again when their shelf life ran out. And is a former advisor to senators, former chief scientist of the Army, and I could go on listing his credentials for the rest of the time I have with him here. But trust me, he knows the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and he knows about the nuclear weapons that the Non-Proliferation Treaty regulates. Now, Dr. Prather, basically you're making the point before the break that the North Koreans, when they saw what America did to Iraq because of their non-existent nuclear weapons program, they kicked the IAEA out, they withdrew from the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and they held out until they got a better welfare package from us. The Iranians, on the other hand, you say, opened their books wide open and said, don't shoot, we're not armed, don't shoot, as basically as loud as they could in front of everyone, even operating by additional protocols to their safeguards agreement with the International Atomic Energy Agency that their parliament didn't even ratify in order to basically show the world, their hands are up and they're not holding any weapons. And yet we're still accusing them. I can't turn on the TV to the cable news channels without seeing some bureaucrat or some news person parroting some bureaucrat saying that Iran's nuclear weapons program must be stopped before they nuke us all. How are they getting away with this?
Well, it's not a matter of them getting away with it. It's a conspiracy, and I'm not a conspiracy nut, but that's the only way to describe this, is that there are a lot of people who, for various reasons, would like to see, in the particular case of Iran, the mullahs, the religious leaders of Iran go away. And that ranges all the way from people like women who don't want to have to wear, whatever they call that thing, that's kind of like a veil or a scarf or something like that. But you got people all the way from that to people who, for religious reasons, think that it would be a good idea if we had a nuclear war, because then that would hasten the end of days or end of time or something like that.
I'm really looking forward to that myself.
Front. These people have all got behind what former Deputy Secretary Paul Wolfowitz said was, we picked nuclear weapons and to scare Americans, because that's the one thing that all of us who wanted, for various reasons, to invade Iraq and Iran, that's the only thing we could agree on. So when these people get up there and they say those kind of things, like you've said, or they report these things without pointing out that it's a bunch of, whatever, they know that they are doing that. It's not and then when the congressional types vote on all these legislations and these sense of Congress and sense of Senate and all this sort of thing, they make these flat claims about it was Iraq, but now it's Iran. Iran's nuclear weapons program. They know what they're doing, and that's what's scary. I don't know how you can possibly. And I'm sure the Iranians, what they look at, I think, from what I've read.
We do have Ron Cole, Scotty. He's ready to go.
Well, in any case, basically, I think the Iranians have decided that we've got so many problems in Iraq that we won't dare invade them or bomb them. But I don't know if that's correct or not.
Yep. Well, I have to say, what you say there, Dr. Prather, goes along with what else I've been able to learn from reading, for example, The Next Act in the New Yorker by Seymour Hersh last November, from reading Target Iran by Scott Ritter, and my interview with Scott Ritter. He said it point blank, regime change is the policy, disarmament is the excuse, and I think you've helped make that case today. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Prather.
All right, Scott. Thank you.
I appreciate you, Gordon.